Okay, so imagine this. What if you could spend, say, a few absolutely blissful days somewhat amazing, like total luxury, but when you came back home, centuries had passed?
Right. That's the core paradox, isn't it? And it's right at the heart of the story of Urashima Taro. He's this really kind fisherman, does one good deed.
Just one act of compassion.
Exactly. And it leads him on this journey where time gets totally warped and, well, it basically obliterates the world he knew.
It's such a powerful idea, this temporal gap, that it actually gave rise to a modern Japanese phrase, hasn't it?
It has, the Urashima Taro. It describes that feeling, that deep alienation when you return somewhere familiar and it's just completely changed, unrecognizable.
No.
And, sometimes people even informally reference the Urashima effect when talking about time dilation in physics, which is pretty amazing for an old folktale.
So today, that's what we're diving into, this incredible myth that somehow connects ancient Daoist ideas about immortality, Japanese folklore, and even echoes concepts in modern science.
Yeah, we're going to trace its journey over, 13 centuries, from its earliest mentions, maybe around the 8th century, possibly linked to court records.
All the way to the version most people know now, often as a kind of cautionary tale for kids.
And along the way, we'll unpack some of the deeper stuff, the philosophy, the cultural ideas about time, karma, and maybe the real cost of escaping it all.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then, with the man himself, Urashima Taro. The sources paint him as this sort of everyday guy, but really defined by his kindness, right?
Absolutely. His defining trait is compassion. He's a fisherman, but the stories often emphasize he wouldn't harm living things unnecessarily. And it's this gentleness, this virtue that kicks the whole thing off.
Right. The setup is simple. He's on the beach, sees some kids being cruel to a small turtle.
Tormenting it.
And he feels sorry for it. He uses what little money he has to essentially buy the turtle's freedom from these kids and just lets it go back to the sea.
A simple act. No thought of reward, just pure kindness. But in this world, that kind of act has ripples.
Big ripples, because a few days later, he's out fishing, and this huge, ancient-looking turtle approaches him.
Not the little one he saved. This is something else entirely. And it speaks to him.
Yeah, it tells him that the small turtle wasn't just any turtle. It was connected to Ryūgū, the dragon god of the sea. An emissary, basically.
And, as thanks, as repayment for Taro's kindness, this ancient turtle offers him a trip. A trip to the Dragon Palace, Ryūgū-jō.
So he climbs on its back, which must have been incredible in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Dives under the waves and arrives at this place, Ryūgū-jō. The descriptions are just otherworldly, built from glittering coral, red and white, pearls, gems.
Yeah, pure fantasy. A supernatural realm, totally separate from the human world. And he's welcomed there by Princess Otohime.
The princess herself. And she treats him like royalty. Feasts, entertainment, dancing fish.
Apparently. Sea bream and flounder putting on a show. The sources really emphasize the sheer sensory overload, the luxury, the bliss.
And in this place, time. It just doesn't work the same way, does it? He loses all track.
Completely. He thinks he's only been there for maybe 3-4 days, just soaking it all in.
But even paradise gets lonely, I suppose. Or maybe it's just that connection to home. He starts thinking about his mother, his old life.
Yeah, homesickness hits him hard. He feels this pull to go back, even from this perfect place. So he asks Otohime, begs her, really, to let him return.
And she agrees, but she's clearly sad about it. And this is where the famous object comes in, the Tamatebako, the jeweled handbox.
She gives it to him, but with a very, very serious warning. She says something like, this box will keep you safe. It holds something precious, but promise me. Promise you will never open it.
Never, ever. That classic fairy tale prohibition, don't push the red button.
Exactly. And Tarouge, probably caught up in the moment, wanting to get home, he promises. He takes the box, gets back on the turtle, and heads for his village.
And the return. It's just devastating. He steps off the turtle onto the shore, and it's wrong. Everything feels off.
The landscape isn't quite right. His house isn't there.
He asks around, does anyone know the Urashima family? And eventually some very old person tells him, oh, Urashima Taro, I heard a story from my grandfather about him, someone who vanished into the sea. Centuries ago.
That chilling moment of realization. 3 days for him.
300 years had passed back home.
Just gone. His mother, everyone he knew, everything familiar, dust.
Like you even imagine the panic, the grief. It's overwhelming.
And in that state, completely distraught, he forgets the promise, or maybe he just desperately hopes the box holds an answer, some kind of fix.
He opens it, he unties the cord, lifts the lid.
And out comes this puff of white smoke. Almost anticlimactic visually.
Yeah.
But it's not just smoke.
No, it's the 300 years, the time he skipped.
And it hits him instantly. He ages in a second, becomes this frail, ancient man, bent over, white-haired, the weight of those missing centuries crashing down on him.
Wow, what an ending. It's so final, so tragic.
It really is. And if you break it down, the structure is almost perfect tragedy.
Yeah.
Taro himself.
Yeah.
He's like the classic accidental hero, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not seeking adventure. He's just kind. And his name, Tarush, it's like John Doe in Japan, right? Makes him very relatable.
Very. And his downfall comes from his virtue, amplified by maybe a moment of panic or forgetfulness, not from some deep character flaw.
And the guides, the turtle obviously is key.
Oh, hugely symbolic. The kam, the turtle in East Asian traditions. It represents longevity, like 10,000 years, wisdom. And it's often seen as a sacred messenger, a tsukai, for sea deities.
So saving that first turtle wasn't just saving an animal, it was.
It had great spiritual significance, as some sources put it, an act that resonated in the divine realm.
And then there's Urashima, the princess. She seems kind, but then there's the box.
Right, the Tamatebako. That's the big mystery, isn't it? Was she trying to give him some kind of protective charm that would only work if unopened? Was it a test of his obedience?
Or was it something more fundamental, like a device to keep the world separate?
I think the sources lean more towards that last idea. An inescapable mechanism. Because the two realms, the timeless paradise and the time-bound human world, they just can't mix. The box contains the boundary.
You can even see that boundary in the description of the palace itself. Right, Ryūgū-jō as the classic Tokoyo, the other world.
Exactly. And that detail about the gardens, it's brilliant. All 4 seasons existing at the same time.
Spring in one corner, summer in another.
Yeah. Spring east, summer south, autumn west, winter north. That impossible simultaneity is the visual proof that this place operates outside linear time. It's non-temporal.
Which is maybe why the story itself could change so much over time, because the core idea is flexible.
I think so. And it has changed profoundly. That tragic ending we just talked about, the one everyone knows, that's actually not the original. It's a later interpretation shaped by specific cultural moments.
Okay, so it wasn't always this sad story.
Not at all. If you go back to the earliest written records, like the Nihon Shoki, Japan's sort of official history compiled in the 8th century.
Wow, that far back.
Yeah. They actually date the event, retroactively placing Urashimako, that was his name, then around 478 CE, trying to ground the myth in history.
Urashimako, okay.
And back then, the destination wasn't necessarily the Dragon Palace. It was sometimes called Hurai, or Tokuyo no Kuni, these mythical lands of eternal life inspired by Chinese Daoist beliefs about achieving, physical immortality.
So less fairy tale, more legend about transcendence, maybe even with political or religious undertones.
Precisely. Then, centuries later, during the medieval period, the story pops up in these popular illustrated scrolls and booklets called otogi chishis. And here things get really different.
How so?
Well, in some versions, the turtle Taru interacts with actually transforms into a woman. And he marries her.
Marries the turtle woman. Okay.
And the ending. Totally different. This is where we get the amazing crane ending.
Ah, I've heard of this. He doesn't just die, right?
No. He opens the box. Yes, he ages. But then he transforms. He becomes a crane symbol of 1,000 years of life.
And the princess.
She reverts to her turtle form 10,000 years. And together they become Meiji, Shinto deities. It turns the tragedy into this incredible story of spiritual transcendence and eternal love.
That's quite a different vibe from turning into dust.
Completely. A total apotheosis. Some local versions got really elaborate. There's one from Kagawa Prefecture where the Tamatebako has 3 tiers.
3. What was in them?
Okay, so one tier had a crane feather foreshadowing. The second had the aging smoke, the consequence.
Yeah.
The third, it held a mirror, so Taro could literally watch himself transform before ascending to godhood.
That's incredibly detailed. So why did the sad version become the standard one?
Well, the sources point to the Meiji Restoration period, late 19th, early 20th century.
Yeah.
Japan was modernizing, standardizing education.
Ah, textbooks.
Textbooks. The tragic version, with its clear moral about obedience, listen to warnings, and maybe the danger of seeking escape from reality or responsibility, was chosen for the national elementary school curriculum.
So it was deliberately selected for its moral lesson.
Seems that way. And that version just stuck. Even the iconic image of Taro riding the turtle, that actually came relatively late, maybe 18th century, but it became cemented with the textbook version.
It's fascinating how stories evolve. Let's go back to that box, the Tamatebako. Its contents. It's more than just lost time, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Philosophically, it's huge. The core is that relativity of time, that devastating temporal dissonance, as one source called it. 3 days equals 300 years.
That disconnect is so powerful, which explains the Urashima effect in physics you mentioned.
Exactly. It's a perfect intuitive analogy for a really counterintuitive concept in physics, like the twin paradox in relativity. One twin travels near light speed, comes back barely aged, finds their sibling ancient.
The myth gives us a hook for that bizarre reality.
It does. It makes the abstract relatable, even if the mechanism is magic, not physics.
And thinking about Japanese ethics, the story seems to revolve around concepts like right, the debt of gratitude.
Very much so. Taro's kindness creates this obligation that the divine world, the sea palace, feels compelled to repay. But the repayment itself, timeless paradise, is fundamentally incompatible with his human existence.
So the reward becomes the punishment, in a way.
It leads directly to his ruin.
Yeah.
His virtue triggers a reward that guarantees his alienation. It's deeply ironic.
And what about Inga, karma, cause and effect?
That's woven in there too. Good cause, saving the turtle, leads to the reward. But then negative cause. His attachment maybe to earthly life, combined with disobeying that warning about the box,
leads straight to the negative effect, instant aging, loss of everything.
It's a clear, if harsh, karmic cycle. And the box itself, the tama in Tamatebako.
It means jewel, right? Jeweled hand box.
It does. But tama is also a homophone in Japanese for tama, meaning soul or spirit.
So opening the box isn't just releasing time.
It could be seen as releasing his connection to the human cycle of life and death, releasing his very mortality, his soul's anchor to linear time. It contained his humanity, in a sense.
Wow. That adds another layer entirely.
Yeah.
Now, for a story this fantastical, it's still surprisingly tied to real places in Japan.
It really is. The strongest, oldest association is with the Tango Peninsula, up in Kyoto Prefecture. There's actually an Urashima shrine there that claims to have records related to that 478 AD date we mentioned.
So they really lean into the historical connection.
They do. But the story's appeal is so wide, other places claim a connection too. Yokohama, for instance, has a whole local tradition, more infused with Buddhism.
What do they have there?
Well, there's an Urashima town area. A temple called Kyunji has a statue of the Buddhist deity Kannon riding a turtle, which legend says Taro brought back. Another temple nearby, Renpuji, even claims to have his grave.
A grave for a possibly mythical figure who vanished centuries ago. Interesting.
It shows how deeply embedded the story is.
Yeah.
And it still resonates today, doesn't it? You mentioned the phrase Urashima Taro.
Yeah, for feeling lost in time.
And it even inspires practical action. Apparently, some fishermen, being aware of the legend, if they accidentally catch a sea turtle in their nets,
they let it go.
They often release it, sometimes with a little ritual offering of sake, a direct echo of Taro's original kindness, which is quite lovely, linking the myth to conservation.
That is lovely. And its legacy in popular culture is pretty strong, too.
Undeniable. You mentioned it was one of the very first anime, right?
Yeah.
The silent animated short from 1918.
Incredible. And you can see its themes pop up in modern stuff, too. Maybe echoes in Studio Ghibli films like Ponyo, or certain sci-fi stories dealing with time loops or altered time.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's the really direct tribute, that JR Kyushu train, the Ibusuki no Tamatebako.
Right. The tourist train. Explain the design again.
It's half black and half white along its length, symbolizing Taro's hair before and after opening the box, black, turning to white with age.
Clever.
And the best part, when the train doors open at the station, they release a puff of white mist, like the smoke from the Tamatebako.
That's brilliant. Such a fun, tangible link to the story.
So, wrapping up, we've seen this journey, haven't we? From a simple act of kindness,
leading to this deep dive into time, karma, the allure and danger of paradise.
And how the story itself shifted from maybe an ancient legend about immortality tied to Taoism and maybe court politics,
to a medieval tale of transformation and becoming gods.
and finally settling into this standardized, poignant, tragic version focused on obedience and loss, thanks to those Meiji-era textbooks.
It really covers a lot of ground. But maybe we can leave our listeners with one last thought to chew on.
Okay.
Think about this. If Taro hadn't opened the box, if he'd stayed in Ryūgū-jō, he'd have had immortality, sure, but wouldn't he have eventually still longed for home?
Probably. The homesickness seemed pretty deep.
Right, but that home, those people, they would have ceased to exist anyway, just outside his timeless bubble. So was the Dragon Palace ever really a reward? Or was it more like a beautiful trap?
The gilded cage, designed to keep him perpetually out of sync, always exactly 300 years away from the world he belonged to.
Yeah. Maybe the ultimate lesson isn't just about obedience, but about whether escaping time is ever truly desirable. Perhaps our deepest connection isn't just to life, but to life in time, the flow itself.
Is our attachment to time even stronger than our attachment to life? That's a heavy question to end on.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating and ultimately heartbreaking story of Urashima Taro.